Hello, Rodney Swope, co-chair of the Biblical Justice Team at People's Church. I'm here to share with you some good news about some of the work that we're doing, and also to give you a little bit of a history on some of the important things that are developing in our community. We're partnering with the Collective Empowerment Group to bring the first Black bank to Cincinnati. Now, Black banks are important because they help underrepresented communities to develop wealth, to gain financial literacy, and also to achieve wealth for their families and their posterity. And we're working to bring the first here, and we're really excited about this possibility and what it's going to mean for economic justice and therefore biblical justice in our community. So stand by, I'm going to show you a brief video that'll give you some of the history about Black banking in our country that helps to set the background for the work that we're doing now.
The Civil War led to the emancipation of nearly 4 million African Americans. As freed people with very few economic resources, they needed to find a way to save their earnings and acquire wealth as new workers in a wage economy. The federal government chartered the Freedmen's Bank in 1865, the very year that the North won the Civil War.
The Freedmen's Bank was a great idea in theory. Newly emancipated African Americans could receive loans to purchase land, could receive advice on how to manage their money.
By 1871, 37 branches had opened in 17 states. The bank hired local Black leaders as cashiers and solicited depositors among the formerly enslaved.
The one flaw, though, is that Black folk had no money. This is after the Civil War. There are no reparations. So I've always wondered, you created a bank, well, what do you expect Black folk to deposit? Goodwill?
Some people invested only a few pennies, but still, they invested. While the majority of accounts were less than $50, the bank ultimately counted nearly $60 million in total deposits from almost 70,000 depositors. But in 1873, a Great Depression rocked the nation.
The Depression of 1873 creates a panic, a run on banks, and banks start failing. The abolitionist Frederick Douglass is brought in essentially to keep those Black folk who had made their deposits from pulling out their money, but that wasn't enough to really shore up the bank itself. And within a year or two after that, it collapses.
As a result, half the depositors received payouts that on average were only 3/4 of the value of their accounts. The other half received nothing at all.
The Freedmen's Bank's collapse not only means that Black people will not have any of those resources to invest in their future, it also helps to create or animate a distrust in government institutions. So people begin to feel betrayed by the union, by the government, in ways that are going to have lasting effects for generations.
So, the Freedman Bank, which was established by President Abraham Lincoln, when he put this law into effect, it was less than a month later, he had been assassinated, and President Johnson took over and began to unravel many of the things that had been in place to try to help ex-slaves to become a part of society, a part of the US economy. And the owners and board members of the bank, the leaders, were of course white males, and white males from the South. And what they began to do is mismanage the funds of the bank. They began to give loans to their friends and associates, and they literally stole the deposits from the bank. And that's when Frederick Douglass stopped in to try to help to save the bank. But by then it was far too late. Even though he put in his own money, $10,000, to try to encourage people to begin to put money into the bank again. But as the video said, the bank soon failed. So it's important now, we only have 42 Black banks in the United States now, compared to the 37 that were back then, over 150 years ago. So it still is very important and very necessary that we create these institutions in our own community because these are the institutions and the banks and the businesses that are going to support our community by giving loans for mortgages and loans for businesses and loans to create wealth in our community. So it's important that we have this. Now, we are poised to have many partner churches that are willing to make deposits into this bank once we have it established here to help to grow its wealth so that that wealth can be shared with our community. That's going to help economic justice in a large way, and therefore be important to our goal of achieving biblical justice. So I hope that you're excited about this and look forward to sharing more with you about the initiative itself and the progress that we're making in subsequent talks that we'll do. And in the meantime, I want to say, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with our Lord together.